well as actual providers of the software, but there's not that many of them.
Now, is that stuff you can talk about live?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure because Jaime went live.
Yeah.
So we're good to go. All right, awesome. Then we're welcome to the Power Take Live, where we discuss strategic revenue growth for your brand and business. My name is Jackson Callum. I'm your host, and we look forward to talking about what's important for your business today. Let's dive in. Business buzz. What's happening this week in business, and how does it pertain to your brand? Filtering the noise. What distractions exist in the world right now that you should stay away from so you can focus on building a profitable business model? Building with poise. What things you should be doing consistently to drive sustainable revenue growth. I talk about how to get the most out of the tools that you're using to drive your success. Tune in to the Power Take for momentum, motivation, and massive revenue growth. Hey, what's up, everybody, especially all you vision pros out there, and welcome to the Power Take. This is a news broadcast featuring small business news that matters to your operations. And I've got a guest here today named Jeff Schwartz. He was on our Vision Pros show. We're going to be talking about geofencing softwares and what's hot in that specific industry. We're going to be talking about who should care about that type of software and diving in deep with that. We'll also be talking about mindset and strategy as we talk about building with poise. And we'll explore, of course, today's episode is going to feature a ton of business toys that you could be utilizing for your growth. So I'm really glad to have Jaime here who's helping run this and put this together. Before we get started, though, I want to give a shout out to the sponsors. Icon Maker Live is coming up over there. iconmakerlive.com. Go check it out. This is an amazing event coming up for podcasters, specifically podcasters in the business space who are looking to turn profits with their podcasting and, of course, establish their authority and their credibility. Great conference coming out. Go check out the video. Go see if it's something for you. It is a virtual event, so you are able to attend that virtually. It's very well prepared by Tom Matson, Cheryl Plouffe, and the other couple of founders involved in that program. Excited to attend that myself. And then, of course, our other sponsor, Capsho. Capsho is the leading software for AI content, for artificial intelligently generated content. All you got to do is take a podcast, a video, an audio clip, something of you presenting. Like you could, for instance, if you're a presenter, you could do your presentation to a client recording with your audio in your shirt pocket, your phone, and then you can take that and you could plug that into Capsho. They have 2 free credits as well. So you can plug that into Capsho, and it will actually take all of the audio from that file. And with a click of a couple of buttons, you can create a LinkedIn article, you can create a blog post, you can create sound bites and clips that are professional. It will create like 80 pages worth of curated content designed for each particular platform of your choice. It is really, really cool. Go ahead and check out Capsho as well. And then, of course, we would love to see you give and contribute to the water project so that people who do not have water can get access to it over in Africa. They show you the site map of all the places that need water and how many people in those villages that it serves. So with that, we're going to dive again a lot deeper into geofencing today because it's just one of those subjects that's unfortunately too hard to understand. There's not enough information about it to help most small businesses win with it. So I decided let's bring Jeff back. Let's talk about this more in depth. And let's also look at the competitive ring that exists out there and see what he's willing to reveal about the industry. So without further ado, Jeff, thanks for being my expert guest regarding geofencing marketing software in particular.
Yeah, Jackson, happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man. So Jeff is the CEO of Ethic Advertising Agency and QJam as well. And QJam is a software that specifically helps with geofence advertising. But let's hear from your words, Jeff. Describe QJam in your own words. What's it do? Who does it service? How should companies be utilizing it for their success?
Yeah, so QJam is I refer to it as the self-serve geofence advertising platform for all. So it is kind of like Facebook boosted posts, or doing like a LinkedIn or Indeed job posting in a way, where it walks you through the process to be able to set up geofences using GPS technology to identify people who have been at a very specific location, and then serve them ads. The ads that we can serve on QJam are display ads, video pre-roll ads, or OTT ads, which are like Pluto TV, Sling TV, like streaming video TV as well too. So the whole purpose of QJam and the audience is actually for more small businesses or small marketing departments that maybe don't meet certain monthly minimums, but they still want to have the power and the access to pull the levers themselves as well too. So that's kind of what QJam was built for. There's some other really good platforms out there as well too that do provide geofence advertising that have a couple of different avenues that people are maybe looking for as well too. But we found for small businesses that there was a lot of closed doors, is what we call them, in the geofencing space. So QJam's just really kind of meant to kick that open to make it accessible for smaller businesses and marketing teams.
Okay, very good. And last time we talked a little bit about the metrics that somebody can anticipate achieving with such a system. What benchmarks should a small business, or really any business, be looking for if they were to implement a system like that? What key performance indicators? People that are listening, you might know those as cost per leads or cost per acquisitions. The average cost per click, impressions. Which ones do you suggest people pay attention to?
Yeah, so I always suggest with this and with all, so although we're talking a lot about geofencing, I got 20 years under my belt in advertising, and I own an ad agency that specializes in digital advertising as well too, and spent time at CBS Television, was media buyer and planner as well. So in general, you can look at conversion rates, you can look at view through rates, you can look at click through rates and clicks and impressions and everything. So there's all the data that you can kind of look at and analyze. But I always like to tell people, think about your audience and your business and what makes sense and what paths they may take. Because with this form of advertising, there's, yes, there are clicks for the banner ads, but like an OTT ad, if it's on your TV, for example, you're not clicking on it. Most OTT inventory isn't clickable. So you actually can't do that. So there's view through completion rates that you could potentially look at. But then there's also a component of, well, if someone sees a billboard, they're not clicking on that as well too. So look at your search data. So whenever you do any kind of what I refer to as push style advertising, where you're pushing your message onto somebody, not pay-per-click where you're pulling their attention in after they're looking at it, but you're pushing your message onto somebody, it's a really good idea to not just look at the data that you're getting on the front end, but look at your back end data, your website traffic or app traffic if it's applicable, your lead flow, your sales as well too. So looking at multiple different data points to understand, is this working? Is this getting my brand in front of the right people and building up awareness and converting into leads as well too? And I always say, extend that into the rest of your marketing and sales process as well. Because with advertising being more at the top of the funnel, filling that funnel and everything, if you're looking at sales and conversions and leads and everything, yes, analyze that at the advertising level, but also, well, what's your sales team doing? What's your website doing as well too? Is it converting people as well? So it's a multi-prong approach to look at, is how I believe is the right way. But from a more like standard KPI kind of thing, you're looking at clicks, impressions, cost per actions, all those kind of things at the front end level. But I always say dive deeper to find the story, because you don't want to pull something that's working. You also don't want to spend more money on something that really isn't working, even if the vanity metrics are saying that it is.
Oh, dude, I love it. So you brought up something very interesting. And that is this, in fact, there's a shift that's taken place. Glengarry Glen Ross, the days are over for the Glengarry Glen Ross world, where we were limited by who could represent our brand by a physical location. That's no longer the case. You have to take care of your sales reps today in order for them to win. You can't say coffees for closers, withhold all of your benefits. They'll walk out the door and get a job like that. And so if you're on the fence and you need a better job, just know that there's tons of companies out there hiring. On the flip side, if you are trying to maintain a sales team, but you do not have distribution, you don't have an audience, well, those salespeople, they expect to be fed good leads. They expect to have people come in that know enough about your brand, about your service, about what it is that you do, in order to have a genuine conversation with them, because people know what it means to be swindled these days. They're too educated to go through that reality. So I'm glad that you mentioned top of funnel, and you mentioned a billboard being an asset as well. And one of my favorite billboards in Austin, Texas. If anybody's ever seen this on 35 driving north, it's probably changed by now. It's been a few years, but Salt Lick, which is probably the best barbecue in Austin. I haven't had Frank's, so I won't lie. I've never made it in time. Frank's always sells out. But Salt Lick, you got to try it if you haven't. The nice thing is it's in the Austin Bergstrom Airport. They have a giant billboard northbound on 35 that said, "You can smell our pits for miles." Naturally, everybody's thinking armpits when they're reading that. But, it's like, oh, they're barbecue pits. Got it. Right.
Yeah.
And so that particular billboard, right, you have to think, as somebody who drives by that, what's the attribution in terms of value of that billboard to the brand itself? Did that billboard make me go to the restaurant? No, it didn't. It did inspire me to really affiliate myself, to find it funny, to say, wow, like I get their dad joke sense of humor. Like that's me, in a nutshell right there. But when we went, we had friends who had told us about it. We then saw a billboard probably weekly for about 2 months. And then another set of friends that we were just getting to know invited us to go eat there with them. And that was our first time going. And so if you're a marketer, you're an advertiser, if you're a business owner trying to figure out, well, which one matters, right? Which one is the one that made that happen? Well, it all did.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have been interested in going without the first friend, and we wouldn't have thought about it and craved it without seeing that billboard constantly. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah. And what you're talking about is integrated marketing communication. Like it's a studied theory in essence, where multiple different forms of communication compound to be able to resonate and have that recall and cause a reaction, more than if you just saw billboard after billboard after billboard, which that's Buc-ee's down in Texas as well too, which that works as well, and everything. But we actually have a theory on top of that called the spiderweb effect, because there's so many in the digital space, different targeting tactics that you can do. So it's not just about the meeting, it's also about the targeting and the creative. And I think the creative is often overlooked. It's one of the most important things.
Yes.
And what that Salt Lick billboard does is it does something that all ads should aspire to do, where it builds real estate in your brain and allows you to think about it and allows you to imagine what's going on. You're thinking about armpits, but then you're like thinking about the pit, and then you're actually connected to one of the most sensitive memory recall senses that you have, which is the smell. So thinking about the barbecue smell as well too. So the creative is one of those things that can make or break a campaign, hands down.
10 years it's been in my brain. 10 years. That's insane. And right across the street, almost an equally powerful billboard pointing south. And it said, it was from Henna Auto, which is right across the street from CarMax. And it pointed toward Henna, and it's pointed down toward Henna and said, "We will pay you $500 more for your car than CarMax, guaranteed." Like, ooh, that's bold.
Yeah.
That is bold and brave.
And there is a component. We get hit with 3,000 to 6,000 branding messages a day. Could be ads, could be just a logo, like on
3,000 to 6,000 per day.
Roughly, yeah, and it depends on also what your day-to-day intake is as well too. As what you do on those things. But we're bombarded with branding and everything. So to be able to cut through that and make people think about it is good. But then you also can create something that I refer to as contagious, just like a virus, something that catches on, right? So it's something that's worth sharing, something that happened with you, where it was maybe sparked by the advertising, but was also sparked by your friends' experiences of saying, you have to try this, you have to go there and everything. And that's why that is one of the most popular barbecue places all in Texas. I'm in Pittsburgh. I've been there. I've been to Salt Lake, and we sought it out and everything as well too. So it's one of those things where reputation and brand really come into play as well too, where advertising can often be the trigger for a conversation that gets you to be convinced to go do something.
Absolutely. So, by the way, anybody who's listening in right now, you have the abilities to submit your own business news now to First Class Business to be hosted during our Power Take sessions. And if it qualifies as newsworthy and it seems relevant to our audiences, then of course we'd be happy to feature it in whether it's an event that's coming up, a podcast that you're going to be hosted on, a book launch that you have. And we'd also love to have you as a featured guest expert during those sessions. Jeff gets the large stage today, unless somebody happens to come in the comments and says, hey, I got something super newsworthy you guys got to hear about our new partnership with Bill Gates or something. It's got to really rock us to derail where we're headed with this. But so without further ado, Jeff, we're going to dive into some softwares. Ultimately, I'm just playing the role of any small business out there who's thinking, you know what, I should look into this geofencing stuff. Where do I go? And I'd love for you, Jeff, to walk through this with me and just kind of evaluate what we look for. So as we go into Google, you pointed out something. I'll skip the first step. I first looked up geofencing software. Jeff pointed out that there's software for geofencing that's not related to marketing, such as tracking of people and vehicles from an HR standpoint or from an operations standpoint. So we've since savvied up, added the word marketing in here. And we're going to go through some of these competitors in his field and providers in his field. And obviously, he's going to have a bias in regards to this. And it's your opportunity to just gain some insight, though, from an expert. So if you've got questions about what we go through, don't hesitate to ask us in the comments. And I'll do my best to facilitate those questions to Jeff. So, Jeff, we're looking at Ground Truth, Propellant Media, and then, of course, there's the G2 program that allows us to see comparisons of software against software. Any of these three elements that you want to talk about, whether it's pros and cons, ways QJam competes with it or supplements it, I'll let you drive the conversation.
Yeah, and all of the things that you're going to come across they're all valuable to the right people, right? Because they all have, like, all these geofencing options are a little bit different. Some of them are resellers on here, and some of them are actually the software that allows you to do it themselves and everything. So when you're analyzing it, there's a good idea of kind of having a list of questions of, well, what are my options? Am I allowed to pull the levers myself, or do I have somebody who's doing it for me? Again, that could be a pro or a con. My agency is a managed service. We do that for somebody as well too, and we have experts that you're communicating with. The QJam side of things is completely self-serve, so it allows you to do it on your own as well. Then there's also, is geofencing the only thing that I need? Because that's all that QJam does. But there's things like Ground Truth, Simplify, which is what QJam's actually built off of their technology and everything. And Agility is another really good one as well too, that offers other services. They offer other things that they can do for you, which adds complexity as well as variety. So there's some benefits to those things of being able to run a geofencing campaign along with a keyword targeted campaign, along with a site retargeting campaign, for example, in different kind of mediums as well too. So that can be very overwhelming for certain people, or it can be the solution that you're looking for because it can handle more for me as well too. So each of them has something a little bit different for them. And for us, our audience on the QJam side of things is those people that want to do it themselves. They want to pay by credit card. They don't want to have any kind of minimums. They also, not on this list that I'm aware of, but there are resellers that justifiably will mark up geofence advertising 300%. And I say justifiably because they are providing a service to maybe small businesses that are only running a couple $100 on a campaign. They have to hire the people to run those campaigns and communicate and do all these things. And for them to make any kind of profit, they have to have those higher margins as well. Since QJam is automated, we got rid of that and have reasonable margins that allows us to serve more impressions as well too. So from an analyzation standpoint as a business, you really have to come to terms with, what do I want? do I want to do it myself? Do I want to be able to pay by credit card? How fast do I want the data? Do I have any minimums that I
So
need to
let's
meet?
talk about those who don't want to do it themselves. Because guys, if you're doing it yourselves, you're either a unicorn who's going to figure it out anyway, by YouTubing it, or you're not going to ever figure it out. Like I was when I try to be a do-it-yourselfer, and you realize that you really need a team to grow and expand a company. So let's dive right into that territory, and look at again what softwares should we be gravitating towards? What's some of the pros and cons? Do you want to hit Propellant Media? Is this
Yeah, so Propellant's a reseller. So they offer multiple different services and they're on, I know, a bunch of different platforms and everything. I met the owner there once, very nice guy, very good business model, and they've been in geofencing for a long time. But they're going to be a managed service for you, if memory serves. And again, some of these people I haven't talked to in a little bit, so they could have definitely evolved and stuff. But from a standpoint of a company to kind of help you out, they have a lot of great information, like just popped up, of how to calculate your budget. They have a really cool ebook as well too that you can download. So a really good resource for information, and it would be a really good conversation to have. And they're going to pop up in search, both organic and paid, multiple times as well too. But from what I know of them, they are still a managed service.
Oh, well, very good. They caught my John email here. I got to fix that. So we're going to take a look a little bit at that calculator. Have you used this calculator before?
No, I haven't.
Okay. And I know calculators, let's see, try our free. Yes, I want to try the darn calculator. Um, Not a great place to have a wall unless they've got a zillion customers. Um, okay. So yeah, I never end up on the calculator. I'm done. And that's how the prospect acts when they're not well served by a marketing funnel. So ground truth, we were talking about did you say something about one of these companies you provide some of the back end support for?
Well,
Is it
geofencing.com, geoconquesting.com had popped up when we were talking beforehand. We actually do the back end support for all of those leads as well too. So if you contact somebody through there, it ends up through us. It's not a property that we own and everything. But on there, we did partner a couple of years ago with them to be able to do that. So, if you contact through there, you're going to end up talking to one of my teammates.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
Mhm.
Okay. Very
And
good.
another,
So
so two
go ahead.
two that are my favorite are Simplify and Agility. Ones that we've used and everything. Agility, it's been a little bit, but they were a managed service, and they're right there. I think that they'll be fine if
Let's
you
check it
click
out.
on the ad as we talk about them. I was very happy with their customer service. They are somebody who was born as an ad agency that developed their own software to provide a service, but they have a lot of different targeting capabilities, and they have something that's a lot more expansive beyond geofencing, but is their own technology, and they are a neat platform. I do know that they were working towards something self-serve. I don't know if they ever got there and everything, but they're ones that we worked with. We got results from as well too, and something, one that I think is a very good option that's on there. And it's been a couple of years, but I don't think that they had minimums, or maybe they do now and everything, which can be a barrier and stuff. My personal favorite is Simplify and everything, but that's a massive DSP that has a lot of different things. But they were one of the pioneers in geofencing, and it's actually the technology that QJam is built upon. So same kind of technology. We just have it be more simple, and it's actually gonna be the one right there, simply.fi. So they have been our favorite partners. They've been a partner for us for a long time. Very transparent about QGM using their technology as well too, and everything. But to get on their platform and be self-serve, there are minimums, and
Awesome.
it's a massive platform. I have one person that on my team that's all that he does is programmatic advertising and spends most of his time in Simplify. So it's a big platform to kind of figure out as and everything, but they have managed and self-serve options. And we've gotten really good results from them as well too. And the technology utilized between the software can vary as well too. I believe Agility, for example, can look back at data. I don't know if they still can, but be like, hey, I want to reach people who have been at this location within the last month. Where, Simplify, I think there's a privacy concern that they have about that, and everything. We adopted it is, well, when we set up the geofencing, that's when we're able to capture those individuals and everything. So we can't do look back data as well and everything. But a very big DSP, and you can get into not just programmatic advertising, which is the banner ads, the digital video ads, the native ads, the digital audio ads on them, but you can also get into, I know they have integrations with like social media and some other things as well too.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, and you mentioned these minimums, and I don't want you to get in trouble with your strategic partners, but are you able to give a ballpark around like what that typically can look like?
It fluctuates from my experience over the years. So we've honestly been able to meet minimums for a long time, and that's why we make it accessible and everything. So
Mhm.
it's different. And what I say with any advertising software that you potentially want to use and everything, what we did is we don't meet the minimums. We know that we don't meet the minimums. We know that we did the research and we want this software. So we're going to do everything we can to prove ourselves within a certain amount of time. So it's like anything, although people have minimums, if you can give them a reason for them to allow you to have access to it and everything, maybe you can grow into what that is. So different platforms have different minimums and everything. And, I've seen them fluctuate from anywhere between, $2,000 a month, $1,000 a month, $500 a month, all the way up to a consistent spend of $20,000 per month and everything. And there's other demand side platforms, which is the do-it-yourself programmatic platforms that have a lot of different targeting,
Yeah.
a lot of inventory coming in that you can run on that are higher minimums than that. But not all of them can utilize geofencing. They have other targeting components with first party, third party data, and a bunch of other elements as well too that you can leverage. So once you start getting into demand side platforms with software that can run these types of ads, there's other targeting options. There's other, there's was it MediaMath? There's the Trade Desk. There's DV360. There's a whole bunch of other ones that can run banner ads and video ads and audio ads and everything. But they all operate a little different with their inventory and with their targeting capabilities.
Yeah. Okay. And so these companies that are running for the not running it, allowing you to run it by yourself, but they're helping you in the process. Those minimums, did you say they'd be around probably in the $5,000 to $20,000 range?
I That would be my guess because it's been 5 years since we went through that process and everything, and the platform we built has no minimums and everything, and I know that it's fluctuated. I know COVID had an effect on that for some companies as well too. So my guess is $5,000 to $20,000 to be self-serve. For managed
Hmm.
service, it could be less. Like our agency will do the managed service for you and operate just like a media vendor or that's out there and everything because we're the ones actually doing it on the software. You can't get more direct than going to a demand side platform. And our minimums are we want you to spend at least $25,000 within a year on a campaign. So that's about $2,100 a month on average, or it could be 1 month at 25K, that kind of thing. But that's where for us to keep our margins down, we need the spend to be to justify us having people on staff and you talking with a dedicated account success manager and having set up in our reporting dashboard as well too, which makes sense whenever it's a managed type service.
So let's say that a business has a $5,000 discretionary budget, more or less, and they're very interested in geofencing software and getting that. They understand the value of the brand exposure that comes along with putting the right creativity ad out there. What can they anticipate, or what questions would you need to ask the entity in order to help make sure that they maximize that software? So let's go into strategy at this point and actually building
Yeah. So if we have $5,000 total, that's what we want to do to test it out and everything. The
per
biggest
month.
thing that what's that?
Per month.
Oh, per month. Okay, so that changes up some
Yes, it
things
does.
as well too. So
I'm sure it does.
strategy wise, if you have $5,000 per month that you want to do a test for it and everything, you have to do the analysis of your return on investment. You have to be able to be identify what your target audience is as well too, because geofencing even has different targeting capabilities within it.
I
So
saw
some of
that.
the things that we have capabilities on, from a agency standpoint, is we can draw the fences around basically by hand to target those individuals, but we can also do addressable geofencing, which someone gives us a list of addresses. Automatically, the system will grab those address property lines, and those are our geofences. We can also use third-party and first-party data to be able to curate addressable geofences as well too. So I can go and I can say, I want to reach households in Austin, Texas, that have a female present, as well as potentially interested in buying a car, or has a child between the ages of 0 and 3 and everything. And then it says, in this area, we've identified this many people based off of really known data, like census data and that kind of thing as well. And then we can automatically geofence those property lines as well too. So there's different capabilities that are in there to identify, okay, who are we targeting and how are we going to target them with this? The other thing that I think is vitally important is I firmly believe that programmatic advertising, not just geofencing, is not the anchor of a campaign. It's really good to complement other efforts. It's really good to be part of an overall strategy. We touched on a little bit that someone might see your banner ad or your video ad, and then they go to Google and everything. So, well, what the hell happens if they go to Google and they can't find you? Your
Right.
paid search isn't working, or your organic search, your search engine optimization isn't working, and everything. And then that lead kind of falls off as well too. So, and that's just the advertising side of things. And then once they're actually on your web page, or come into your location, wherever it is, then that the whole sales and conversion process picks up. So there should be an overall strategy to complement this type of advertising. To think about, if someone sees my message, do I have the capability to pull them in and convert them into a sale? And if the answer is no, then focus on those things probably first. If the answer is yes, then geofencing / programmatic is potentially a good resource for that agency to be part, or that company to be part of their overall strategy.
Jeff, I love your ethics on that. It's so easy to sell a hammer. Like think that everything looks like a nail. But
Yeah,
you hit something very
it's
important.
it's
And
legitimately my biggest fear for QGEM, because it is really cool technology that can work and everything, but it is not a hammer. It is a power drill. And you need to know how to use it properly in order to kind of craft what you need to have and everything. So that's why I focus a lot, and we're going to continue to develop education, information on our platform and everything. But it makes me nervous because I'm giving people who aren't traditionally advertisers the power to run it themselves, because I heard that they want it. I had hundreds
yeah,
of conversations, and I know that they want it and they want to do it and everything. But I'm trying to do everything I can to say, keep up with advertising laws and regulations. We got your back. We'll check it as a final step and
right.
everything. But here's creative best practices. Here's how to set up things when you get to the budget page. Here's all these other things as well too. Whether they watch them or read them or not is up to them. But that is
That's the
actually my
thing, though.
biggest fear.
It's not a
Yeah,
power drill. It's more like a sawzall or something I don't know how to pronounce that I would use in construction, right? Something that
yeah,
I can't quite equate to. And I will play devil's advocate a little bit, because there are certain types of brands that I believe would benefit tremendously from geofencing without the need of the digital assets. Specifically, your brick and mortar stores that um, have a very low cost good, that is also a model that's built on retainer. And I could be wrong. We'd have to, of course, do the research on the return on investment. But I'm thinking, my parents used to own a Twice the Ice machine, for instance.
Mhm.
They don't need a website for that. They never needed it. That's all. But they
Yeah,
could benefit from a Facebook page. And we run
yeah,
Facebook ads for it. And the Facebook ads absolutely crushed it for them by
yeah.
doing that. But that's the example of a repeat business model too, where local restaurants and apartment patrons across the streets and stuff, once they found out about it, they became local regulars. So it's not necessarily a maintained campaign, but something that can be triggered based on events like 100 degree heat days. in Texas, for instance. I saw that was a potential on one of those platforms.
Yeah. So, and
Talk about
there's,
that.
and again, that gets into different triggers and targeting kind of things. Now, for programmatic, you should have a dedicated web page, and everything. Like, you can't run a lot of things if it's going to, like just a Facebook page. Some places won't let you and everything, and it makes sense.
Mhm.
But at the same time, for like
But you
that,
can
like
get a
ice
landing
cream
page
parlor.
super cheap these days. Is all I mean. You
Yeah.
don't necessarily need a full-on SEO strategy and all the back end stuff you normally get. Get somebody who has go high level like us, get it set up. It's pretty much free. If you're working
Yeah.
with the right agency, and then bam, you've got a landing page that you can drive traffic to, and you don't have to fuss with all the ins and outs
Yeah.
of all the digital
And
marketing
stuff
elements.
like that. I mean, I think everybody should have, that's a business, should have a landing page, or like a web page, even if it's simple and everything. Especially if it's food, you have your menu on there, people can see it. The other thing that it does is it can
Mhm.
maybe help you get found on like Google Maps or Apple Maps as well too. So there's an
Well,
SEO
we still
value
had
to
that
it.
too. Even though we chose not to do the website,
Mhm.
we still had the Google Map capability. And so,
Yeah.
again, the bigger point is just, you gotta understand what your essentials are as a business owner, right? And if they're a necessary component for the campaign, then awesome. And turn to somebody like Jeff or I who know how to help you make sure that you're not over investing in the wrong thing. Because guys, trust me, there's plenty of ways Jeff and I can spend your money. There are plenty of ways that we as marketers and advertisers know how to spend the money. The key is to be disciplined, not to sink the ship. Make sure that the
Mm.
ship continues to produce results. So
Yeah.
I was thinking of a coffee company, and this with this weather pattern idea, and I was like, what if, so is that, and maybe that's not part of the geofencing process. Maybe they don't overlap with the
Yeah.
weather.
Those would be called weather triggers. And there are some people that can do it. There's also, like, there's some things that, like, Zapier is a pretty cool tool, and
Yep.
everything, where basically, like, if the weather is this hot or something like that, turn on my paid search ads or something.
Hmm.
Like it's, if something happens here, then then Zapier turns on something or off something over on this side. And then there's also other companies that will say, hey, we can do weather triggers and everything. So test it out, because a lot of those have like different kind of
That's
variables or
smart.
maybe some restrictions.
I didn't think
But
about
there are
using
those
Zapier for that.
Yeah. What's that?
So I didn't think about that. So yeah, local mom and pop coffee shop that in Texas, for instance, we're getting hit by heat. They have a smoothies, the ability for smoothies, but everything's of Sonic, or something General First, Orange Leaf. And if they have the ability to have Zapier turn those ads on based on the weather, they could easily trigger their ads to start running to drive promotions for their
Yeah.
smoothies.
And there
Really
are, and
cool.
that's if you're doing it like yourself as well too and everything. We actually tested that out as an option. But there's at our agency side, but there's also companies that have that kind of pre-built in as well too. But there's weather triggers. There's instances of people reading content or searching for content that will trigger some of these ads as well. But they're on the geofencing side, like if you're going after people that are just in that area, stuff that we do, it's not like SMS text messaging where you can't push it out, but if you have an app, you can push out a message, which is cool. But like on our agency side, we can actually set the recency to, like, if they're on their phone and they're looking at something and everything, we'll serve them ads while they're in the geofence, or 15 minutes, or within 15 minutes after, or something like that. QGM, we set it to 30 days and everything, because we are keeping it really simple for right now as we build it up, since it's only been launched for a couple of months.
Yeah.
But there are that capability to do those little tweaks and different things, which there's so many different options that are out there. That's where talking to a professional and seeing what your options are really helps, and identifying, well, this is maybe what I want to do, but also finding people that can say, is that really what you want to do? I listened to you and your goal is this and your problem is this, and what you have budget wise and what you want to do is this. I know you came to us for geofence advertising, but maybe it needs to be something else as well too. I just had a conversation with a financial advisor company that's been around for a year,
Mhm.
and asked a lot of probing questions before it, had them write up a whole bunch of different stuff and send it to me. And I went into that knowing that they're not going to become a client of the agency, because they had a couple of other things to do, right? So I
Yep.
spent all the time talking to them about the entrepreneurial side, about the stuff that I would do if I was in their shoes, the sweat equity, because my area of expertise in my companies is paid advertising. there's organic, there's search, there is the, the deeper funnel stuff, the sales side of things as well too, to focus on. So finding people that are willing to have that conversation, and then talking to a couple of them to identify, I resonate with this person, I trust this person to have as part of my team, an extension of my team.
Awesome. Let's go ahead and dive in real quick to the registration process for QJam. So I've just invited Jaime. Jaime, go ahead and sign us up for QJam. And let's take a look at the beginning processes. So Jeff, what can we expect as we get ready to submit this form here?
My hope is simplicity, to be completely honest. So one of the things that we really try to do is take a very complex topic and make it simple.
Let me pause you real quick, Jeff. Jaime, if it shows the password letters, make sure to, if it doesn't just show the asterisk right away, make sure not to share while you're creating our password for this. Appreciate you, brother. All right, Jeff, you can continue.
Yeah, no, good call out and everything. So, we want the sign up to be simple. Now you have to put in your credit card information before you can launch a campaign, but we aren't asking for that. Really, we want you to register and play is kind of our mentality. So once you do register, you'll be able to set up campaigns. You'll be able to kind of play around with it, see what's going on. There's also on our webpage a couple of good resources to figure out what those things have going on as well too. And Jaime, you're going to need to do the phone number too. Yeah.
You can put my phone number. People can call me. People are too scared to call these days anyway, so it won't happen. Don't worry about that.
Oh, yeah.
All right. All right, cool. Sorry, keep going, Jeff. I distracted you a little bit. So we're going to get in here to the sandbox, and we're going to get to play with QJam as a software.
Yeah.
What should we be looking at? Feel free to pick on our brand, or if you want me to share a client with you, like a client use case perhaps, then feel free to drill me with questions.
Yeah. So one of the things, you should get a code for that. One of the things that that could work for your brand potentially is with the QJam side of things. It's not really accessible for other platforms and everything, because everything else will require a minimum, or it's too much work. Like even if someone doesn't have a minimum, if you go to them and say, I have 20 clients that we're trying to talk with and everything, I know where their offices are and everything. Let's can we go after them and stuff. So this is something where you can spend 10 to 20 bucks on there, see if you can drip on them, because if you nail one, it was definitely worth that money and everything. So from a B2B standpoint, that could be potentially useful. So it really kind of depends.
Talk a little bit more in depth about that. What do you mean?
So for other platforms, like geofencing traditionally is done for places that have bigger audiences, but they're in very specific locations, and you're going to be going after them for a long period of time. If you go to radio stations sell this, TV stations sell it, other big vendors and everything. If you go to them and everything and say listen, I only have a list of 20 people that I want to get onto my podcast, or I want to become my client and everything, and I know where they are and stuff, then you don't technically need to spend that much money to try to drip on those individuals. Now, there's a lot of parameters with this where a lot of things have to be aligned. So the bigger audience you have, the more likely you're going to be able to reach the right people. And there's no differentiator with geofencing of the right people that are at somebody's house versus people that are visiting, coming in and out, all those kind of things and stuff. So, there's a couple of different factors. But if you have a small campaign that could work for you where you get one sale from it as a B2B company, that could be really advantageous. So Absolutely. It looks like you're in here. So this is a dashboard. Once you create a campaign, you'll have a card setting here that you can sort by draft, pending, waiting, that kind of thing. But if you want to play around and go to new campaign, you can see kind of how easy, hopefully, it is to set up. But you start out with just a campaign name, so you can do.
I've got a question. So real quick, as you get ready to go into that, I've got a company called Music Helps Me Learn. Okay, let's see if they're not qualified, that's perfectly fine to discuss too. Music Helps Me Learn wrote this children's book that also goes along with a CD or a downloadable. You can download the songs after you purchase it, and it's a great book to help toddlers learn the alphabet and learn the sounds of the alphabet in a fun way that also gets them active with reading books and getting out of tablets.
Yeah.
Is this something where you could see it being applicable from a geofencing standpoint with daycares and targeting education centers and churches, or is it not applicable as a consumer good?
So I love that you picked this one because there's complexity in it, which is
fun.
yeah, because there's COPPA laws. So child protection laws that you can actually not target specifically children under the age of 13 with advertising. So a place that has roughly 50% occupancy of children under the age of 13, like a preschool or an elementary school and everything, is not an area that you can actually geofence. But there might be some other things that are music related, or something like a museum or something like that, that you could potentially target with these kind of ads. So there are opportunities to leverage it to benefit you, but there's also things that are out there that are like, hey, like you cannot target this because of legal actions. Now, that it should be protected by every single vendor that you would ever talk to and everything. The way that we do it is, although we do everything 100% automated on QJam to go in the system, there is a final check where we check your creative, your landing page, and your geofences by a real human being to look for HIPAA law violations, to look for state law violations, to look for COPPA law violations, to look for advertising law violations as well too, even like political or weight loss and everything. Yeah. So we add that extra step of that human touch at the back end, but we also honestly have in our fine print that this is self-serve. You should be keeping up with these laws as well too. However, we know most people aren't going to read that, and that's why we're there to protect them.
What about targeting like the YMCA? Are you able to do that?
Yeah,
that's cool.
So although there's a big population of children and everything, it's not dedicated to that. So like elementary schools, preschools,
churches,
stuff like that is definitely dedicated to that. But like a gym or like a park or a museum could be something that's really neat. There are even things not on QJam, because QJam's meant for a longer term kind of campaign, and we're looking at figuring out, well, what features do we want to release to people. But on our back end of the full system side of things, we can do event-based geofencing. So geofencing music events, bless you, Jackson, bless you again, music events or something like that happen, and then we can capture people that have been at a specific event, and then we retarget them with ads afterwards as well too.
That's awesome. Okay, so if you were to do a long-term campaign for a company like this, like Music Helps Me Learn, what would that look like?
So our approach is super holistic. My agency,
do you gather like a bunch of, do you do the actual return on investment strategies with the clients that you work with? Is that a paid for service? Is that something that's offered right on the first call? How does that work?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm going to talk to the agency side of things, the ethic advertising side of things, but we have a 5-step process to identify what's the budget, what's the goal, what are they trying to accomplish, and how they're going to leverage the creative and everything. And then we go into discovery, so deep dive into, well, what do they have going on and everything. And I mean, you can actually type in
go ahead, Jeff, you got him.
Yeah, you can type in an address and hit that. It integrates with Google.
Do YMCA. YMCA, and I bet the Google pops up, right?
Yep.
There you go. Just type one of those. Go ahead, Jeff. Sorry, we interrupted you.
Yeah, no problem. So we have identified, then we go into discovery to really kind of pin that down. Then we go into concepting stage and everything. And that, the satellite view is actually a really nice view to find the building itself as well too.
You're going to scroll way in, Jaime. You're actually going to try to select buildings, I believe.
Yep, absolutely. So there you go. And then you can hit the blue Add Geofence button. And then you can do like 13 points on a polygon to select around it as well.
So you got to go real in close to the building. And once you're super close to the building, what you're going to do is draw that box. Oh, you got it. You figured it out. Mm-hmm. You're working on it.
And then, so the other stages of our process, conceptualize it and present it basically. And then once it's approved, we do execution of the campaign and finalization. So kind of a final review as well too. So we have a 5-step process to take people through to identify, are they the right people for us? And this is for new business. And we kind of follow this process throughout, but for new people, are they the right people for us? And are we the right people for them? For agency side, we want to work with people that have high 5 figures, 6 figures, and low 7-figure ad spends that are really focused on digital, hyper-targeted digital, as well as creative services as well too, and everything. But we have some other things and some smaller clients that we'll look at. But the minimum threshold that we're looking at is the $50,000 mark and up, which is why it's so frustrating, because we had so many geofencing conversations, being the backend provider for geofencing.com and a thought leader for this, that we would say, we can't help you. Here's some other people that maybe could, but I knew that they didn't have the right solution either. So that's why we invested 1.5 years and a good chunk of money into QJam.
Makes sense. Yeah, it's very hard. It's hard when you're not the service provider and you can't control the outcome of the assets that great potential clients need to use in order to succeed, and you kind of send them off into the wind, and their chances of success without the right guidance are slim to none. And it's a very difficult reality to be in as a service provider. So Jeff, thank you, man. We appreciate your time. We're grateful to have you on the show. Vision Pros, thanks for joining us for the Power Take today. Jaime, great job showcasing QJam and how easy that is to flow through. And we learned a ton today. So appreciate your time, Jeff. If you guys have any questions for us, so again, if you have a segment of news that you'd also like us to distribute, then don't hesitate to submit it to us at hello@firstclassbusiness.io. We will consider it for whether it's newsworthy or not for our audience. And of course, we're here to help small businesses and business owners, entrepreneurs build their dreams and understand the tools they need to do so. So have a fantastic rest of your day, and we will see you on the next episode.
Thanks, Jackson.
Welcome to the Power Take Live, where we discuss strategic revenue growth for your brand and business. My name is Jackson Callum. I'm your host, and we look forward to talking about what's important for your business today. Let's dive in.